The whole bottle. Gone. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. We're heading into court. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. I mean, you're doing it right now. I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair in London. It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zeeks is on the front page of every one. The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zeeks' return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon for what appears to be a mundane murder? There's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Locum student, Mr. Narhodo Esquire. It's you!
My name is Her Majesty the Queen. I hereby declare this court to be in session. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public?
Oh, frick! Is it you again? Oh, okay. Oh, and it's you? Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green.
I beg your pardon, Inspector? Thought to be?
Yes. Having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and now she's been comatose ever since. If I could ask everyone to look at this street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago, at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road. But it had not been long since it stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take statement from her, of course. It's a case file with everything we know about the victim so far. What of the weapon that was used? Sir? I have that here. Let's see here. Is it just the knife itself? Looks like a flip. It's got a chipped end. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. Oh, we can't like inspect it, really. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At the moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
What reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? And you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else alone but the victim and the accused. Rather. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he'd just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end, which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Boop, 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 boop. Yep, that's what I was thinking. Something like this. Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? Guess what? Boom.
Objection.
It's a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. I swear if it's just right next door. However, if we take into account the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well be that he wouldn't have passed that location at all.
Could that be true?
My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Obviously we looked into that. Where is it? Well, it turns out that Your Books... Whoa. But if the accused was coming home from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books... there's no doubt he would still have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors?
We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Well,
In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman?
of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his onkus refusal to throw in his alley. I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I got work to be doing. What sort of work do you do, sir? A man's life is on the line here, sir. This'll take as long as it takes. Oh, don't get clever with me, son. My life's on the line too, and so's my family's. Huh. The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat. Neither do the wife and kids. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. I go to the union every morning to find what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of the year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. They're after cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn to dusk, it is. So, you were out digging the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just round the corner from where it all happened. That old bookshop it was. What? Another coincidence. That's right. Meerschaum Street. You were digging up Meerschaum Street? Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. Oh, the man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. Right, because he's digging it up from dawn till dusk. Pit these two?
Objection!
Yes. Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meerschaum Street, making it impassable, which means the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meerschaum Street down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course. What do you think, sir?
Well, yes, you can't argue with that, really, can you? You must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way.
So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken a longer route back to those lodgings. I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened.
Well, all right then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, should be filled in. That's what I said. Fill the hole filler. Your books, yes. Nice shop, Dad, but bourbon books, no, not worth a visit.
What about you?
Your books, nice shop, bourbon.
It was not worth a visit. Please tell me.
Hey, sorry. Folded, you say? Fold what?
No. What I said was, hold it. What I want to ask was, do you visit your books often?
I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're talking about.
And what time did you visit your books on the day in question?
Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left.
Are you sure about the time?
Oh, yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after that dreadful time I had.
What do you mean?
Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. Knocked myself clean out, I did.
Juror number 6, I must insist. You add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant. If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it could only have been the victim. You have slipped over myself, knocked myself clean out. Wait! You're in a green coat. No way.
Objection!
No way. Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. There's at least one fact of which we can be sure of here. The bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of secondhand titles. He then returned home on foot. That same afternoon, there was someone else, apart from the victim, who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. Oh my! That's right. I'm referring, of course, to hard of hearing, juror number 6. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in green overcoat fell. On Calabash Road. Therefore, if the person who Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. You idiot old man! If you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have been boxed this off hours ago.
And really, what were you thinking when you said you'd be fiddling cold?
Well, you say to me, is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days? Is it a crime to slip on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat, is it?
Who's yelling hold it?
I should like to call for a verdict not guilty.
Thank you.
I would too. What? Is it a crime to change your mind, is it? Well, the ayes 2, the noes 4, so the noes have it. Not guilty, they say, which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
You can't. We followed the rules, my friend. We literally followed the rules perfectly. Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hollow chalice moments after raising an objection, only to crush it in disgust? Pray forgive the discourtesy. It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited those jurors with intelligence by describing them as insightful. Yet we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. I'm literally doing my job here. I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Indeed. Stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of pavement which you excavated, sir. Now my learned Nipponese friend tell me. Do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters? That's not much at all. Kids just jump over it all the time. The accused is no gentleman as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt that on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down Briar Road. If you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not prefer it during the summation examination? I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. We're getting coat off already. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. The prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. That guy on the left looks like he might be a little out of it. Are they wearing the same knit sweater? That's kind of cute. Yep.
Constable Rolly beat, sir. Nothing to report on the street, sir.
Oh boy. There he goes.
And I'm Miss Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say I'm this young town hero's wife.
On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident.
Yes, sir. It was our wedding anniversary and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work.
What? Oh, I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. But, sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary.
What the frick is this voice? Anyway, 2 silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. Okay. 2 silhouettes.
That's right, they were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction.
And you're certain that at that time there was nobody else nearby?
Oh yes, quite certain. We ran straight over, of course, and went for help at a nearby police box.
Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all.
Oh, yes, that's right. I asked Miss Beat to go. I was off duty by that point, but a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene.
Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance.
That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box.
Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box?
Oh, it depends on the crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat, the incident founder, so she could go report it.
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something?
Yes, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it, all little punchies.
What? No, that's not that at all, no.
My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail, everything, like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one I could, every single one. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is?
Well, that will do, Miss Beat.
No, I won't do it all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will.
I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please put your husband's fists down.
Perhaps you would like this opportunity to supplement your testimony, Miss Beat? Might that, appease you?
Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely.
Is she literally just gonna give us a contradiction?
I can even tell you the names of the 4...
There's 3, but go on, okay.
Would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene of the crime?
I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was the picture of Monsieur somebody or other, and what's it yearnings, and there was, a meal for someone, and the last was definitely the thingamies something. You see?
There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it.
Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling?
Oh, he's actually... Whoa!
Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have to answer me to answer to.
Oh my god, put the gun down. Buddy. Terrifying. And the 4 books? Are we gonna start with this, that there's only 3 books at the scene?
Objection.
Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see, there are only 3 books.
But no, that can't be. I saw them. Oh, I know what it is. Yes, you can't fool me.
Sorry?
It's a big old lump of a dead butt.
She's not dead.
That lady's so large, her corpse is blocking the view of the 4th book.
She's not dead. But Mr. Natsume could not possibly have dropped the 4 books you describe.
What proof do you have that the accused did not drop 4 books?
Boom. Yes, this receipt details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed.
No!
Therefore, Mr. Natsume would have only dropped 3 books at the scene of the crime.
which means that your powers of observation, madam, cannot be relied upon.
Objection!
It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these two witnesses saw the accused running from the scene, a fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found. But what about the photographic print? It only shows 3 books. Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. That print? You mean to say... Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand. And it's the Lion's Pride. Okay. Have we heard that one? For some reason, I want to say that one is in Mr. Garadeb's collection. Also, is it burnt?
I'm sorry, Counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt?
It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photographic print clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. I have it here as evidence. And... oh no, it's right there. Whoa, gnarly! I mean, I know there was the fire in the Garadeb house. I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question.
What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage that sorry Thomas suffered?
Its owner.
Who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
That is Mr. Garadeb.
Take that!
The answer is that book belongs to the couple who owns the house where the defendant has his lodgings. Yo, the 360! A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. Of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself.
Oh my goodness, me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid.
Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense.
Wait, is that what it's just gonna be? That Mrs. Garadeb, in anger, threw the book out the window and it hit her?
No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there is no report of the Garadeb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garadeb household. But it is not conceivable that the window was open. No, it's not, because it's winter, bro.
How long have we sat here now listening to this Nipponese?
Every time they say it, it sounds so bad.
This Nipponese spouting out this fancy foreign theories. But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could have possibly stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache.
My lord, the defense has to exercise its right to a summation examination. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve. I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth.
Well, come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes. It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on top, it did. Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place was filled with smoke. We had to open all the windows to clear it.
Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Okay, well, here we go.
Objection!
That's one. These 2 jurors' statements clearly contradict one another. Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to...
in the... Oh! Exactly. On the day in question at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garrideb household, and Mr. Garrideb had the following to say about it.
The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh my.
Oh, my hat! And you have something to say? Can we pursue you?
Excuse me.
Oh, all right then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open a window. Now you mentioned, yes, the window was open at the time. It's clean forgotten, but it's true.
Well, let's press that for more info. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading?
I did. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much as the title of it.
Bro? Bro, you're mad flexing. What's up?
Excuse me.
It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. My wife was cutting up some chicken at the time.
Oh no.
I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear, stuck into the wall behind me, it did, about an inch deep. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When a woman loses their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchet, hammers, you name...
She didn't know what she was throwing.
If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider.
All right, so we're going to go with pit that against you.
Objection.
We've demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrideb household to the street below. After all, Mrs. Garrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband.
Who gave us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What was it?
The other object that found its way from the Garrideb household to the scene of the crime was...
Take that.
the knife. Juror number 4. Mrs. Garrideb, have you ever seen this knife before? Ooh, ooh. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garrideb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which this book would sail to land at the scene of the crime.
You can't seriously believe that book was found in the victim's grasp.
Are you saying that it flew out the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand?
Huh, even my missus hasn't got an aim like that.
Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't yet understand, but that's not the point. That's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Mrs. Garrideb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Bye. Yo, with the katana there. My lord, who's yelling this?
I wish to change my decision.
Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but... I just don't think it'd be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. I'd have to agree. Now that I think the granny did it, mind.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either.
All together now, ladies and gents.
How come Gramps is still like that? I didn't expect Gramps to not change. I thought he'd be the easiest to. The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond. But let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of these places being discussed. It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garrideb household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Uh-huh. Which means that the distance from the Garrideb's house to the scene is some... Yes, 15 yards. Can I get that in meters, please? Let me see, 15 yards. That's around 14 meters. Oh. Oh. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly.
This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrett. Believe me, a London Bobby is good for his word.
Okay, we'll see.
How can you say that for certain?
There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mrs. Garrett's domestic dispute can't be related to this case.
But before I get it, that's just one thing.
Yes?
I very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the Great British Institute of Scotland Yard.
So to that end, I'd be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears.
Thank you. I'll try. Good. We'll strive to preserve peace. Sure? He's expected to walk 20 miles. Sure? Any crimes fall in the jurisdiction of the beat in which they're discovered. A policeman must assist with the Okay.
Is he, sir? The windows on the top floor of the Garrett house are top-hinged casements.
By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That'd be funny if that was just it.
Just allowed a bit of air through the house, you see. So they're restricted how much they open.
And therefore, anything thrown out the window from inside the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here's the location where objects would have fallen.
Yes, directly opposite the scene of the crime.
Why would you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. and Mr. Garrett's house is furnished with?
Well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
What do you have to say about that?
Excuse me.
You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that?
Oh, I was just remembering, that's all. We really were so lucky.
Lucky? What do you mean?
Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rowley's beat. It was so close, you see.
I hadn't realized.
Oh yes, that street, Briar Road, that's the boundary between Rowley's beat and the next.
Did they move the body?
If the Garrett household is on your beat, does that mean that the pavement next to it as well is?
Outside Mr. Garrett's house. Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat.
I see. I was unaware of that.
I just think if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal to celebrate our wedding anniversary.
This is literally what it is.
I did leave the scene to go fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed.
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer, is that right? Well, let's see.
That's right, yes. If it had been on Rowley's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. So Rowley told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way. But like I said, my Rowley was at the scene the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed.
I didn't take my eyes off the crime scene for 1 moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir.
Hold it!
This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Garrett household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hands of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time?
Well, sir, that book was in the lady's hands from the moment we arrived at the scene.
Is that so?
Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir.
Oh, yes, of course, what is it?
You're doubting us, aren't you? Please, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. My voice will be heard. My lord, you'll let me speak, won't you?
Yes, Miss Mead, I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire.
I know what I saw. My eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though. Oh, yes. Well, it's a little embarrassing, really. I'm always ending up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rowley. He gets ever so cross.
Excuse me.
Oh, I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening, is all. Huh? You mean Miss Beat lost her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine. Well, she was gone a fair bit longer than I was expecting.
I was so long was because of the bouquet, silly.
A bouquet? Sorry, what bouquet are you talking about?
He saved up for it with farthings and halfpennies he found in the gutter while doing his rounds.
Yes.
How romantic. I had forgotten all about it until just now. Had you my guard, darling? Oh, but, oh yes, but that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh. Miss B, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to. What happened was I dropped my bouquet and ended up losing my way for a while. You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over and saw it was a woman with a knife in her back, I was so shocked I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. It was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light, so I didn't notice at first. And then you went to the police box to report it to the policeman whose beat it was on. Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again, but the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. Oh my god, this is it. The body was moved. But the worst of it is, I forgot to pick the bouquet up again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose Rolly bought me, with that change from the gutter he spent so long collecting.
By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry, solitary rose, according to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation? It was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the Gerdab household.
I didn't take my eye off the scene for one moment. Nothing strange to report.
Objection!
There we go. You claim, Constable Beat, there was nothing to report in the 15 or so minutes you were guarding the scene. But this cannot be. In your testimony just now, Miss Beat, you explained to the court that when you arrived back at the scene of the crime with the policeman assigned to that beat, the bouquet you had dropped at the victim's side was no longer anywhere near.
Objection!
Yes, on the opposite side of Briar Road, to where the victim was attacked. But considering the size of that meager bouquet, if a single sorry bloom can be so described, no doubt it was blown in the wind across the street, back into the gutter where it belongs. Meager? But if that were the case, why did Constable Beat not testify to the fact? More than one thing in this case is mysteriously the wrong way around.
What are you talking about?
Think about it. Besides Miss Beat's bouquet, there's Mr. Gerdeb's book. Mr. Gerdeb's copy of The Lion's Pride, which was thrown out the window by his wife, would have struck the pane of the casement window and landed here, on the west side of the street. And yet, it was actually found here on the opposite side of the road in the victim's hand. Meanwhile, according to the testimony we've heard, Mrs. Beat's bouquet should have been dropped here at the scene of the crime on the east side of the street. But in fact, it was actually found here, on the opposite side of the road, in front of Mr. and Mrs. Gerdeb's house. There's no logical explanation for these things. Unless somebody deliberately moved them. Tell us, my learned friend, who would possibly have had cause to carry out such an elaborate deception?
Take that!
Yeah. Obviously, there's only one person it could have been. Constable Rolly Beat.
First you make accusations about the landlord and his wife, and now you incriminate a policeman as well. But your accusations lack one very important thing.
Uh-huh.
You claim the crime scene was tampered with. But there's only one reason anyone would commit such a reckless crime. To hide something. You've offered no motive for the alleged tampering. And until you do, your accusations are nothing but empty threats.
Constable Beat's motive for tampering with the scene of the crime was to hide where the bouquet, where the book fell? Where the victim fell in general, right? Because if the victim's not on his beat, he doesn't have to worry about it.
If that's your assertion, then the court is dying to know, my Nipponese friend. Where are you proposing that the crime actually took place that evening?
Right around, is it gonna glow? Right around here?
Take that!
On the evening in question, Mr. Gerdeb's book fell directly from the open window above, and your bouquet, Miss Beat, never moved at all. What did move was the scene of the crime itself.
Constable, explain yourself. Why would you do this? As a respected member of Scotland Yard, your duty is to protect the good people of London Town.
I can think of one reason. What? How could you possibly know? You, a foreigner, presuming to understand the mind of a Scotland Yard policeman.
And yet, Lord Van Zeeks, it is this foreigner who has uncovered the startling truth of the matter thus far. I believe it would be beneficial to the court to hear this extraordinary young lawyer's theory. Counsel for the defense, if you please.
Constable Beat had worked so hard to be able to afford this simple gift for his wife, and was so looking forward to taking her out for a celebratory meal. This is the warrant card that Constable Beat offered to lend to me earlier. Inside, among the rules for patrolling policemen, it says, when a crime is discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with his initial investigation and help detectives.
Bah!
Constable Beat? Is that, or is that not, the reason why you moved the whole scene of the crime that day? Yes. Everything you said, it's all right. How many books did you move from that one side of the road to the other in total?
4 it was. Yes, sir, definitely.
What made you place that book in the victim's hand? And all the others were scattered haphazardly around, I mean.
Oh, well, sir, that's because that's how I found it.
How you found it? What do you mean?
When we first ran over to the scene, the victim was already holding the book. So when I moved everything, I made sure it was still in her hand.
Quite a startling revelation, I must say. Whoever thought of a third party transplanting the entire scene of a crime like that?
Indeed, my lord. Nevertheless, there's some immutable facts here. Principally, now, the accused, Mr. Saseki Natsume, is the only person who could have possibly committed this crime. What? No, wait, what? Yeah, no. No, I disagree. Now that we know the true scene of the incident, there is someone else. Another person who could be responsible for the knife in the victim's back. Forgive me for being presumptuous, but I believe the prosecution is probably well aware of this possibility already.
Lord Van Zeeks, is this true?
Very well. Name the person if you will, and if further investigation is warranted. The prosecution has no objection to the trial continuing. In order to finally reveal the truth about this case, it's imperative that we cross-examine juror number 4, Mrs. Joan Garadeb.
Oh, me!
This knife, the one removed from the victim's back. Have you really never laid eyes on it before?
I don't recall it.
Seriously? Make no mistake, you jurors are not special in any way. You're not immune to the judicial process. If you know something about this knife, madam, let the truth come out. The prosecution does not object to the defense's request to cross-examine this woman. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks.
So I demand your full and unadulterated testimony, Mrs. Garadeb, and mark my words, in this court of law today, we shall extract the truth. Do you concur, counsels?
Certainly, my lord. Oh, that's what I'm hoping for, my lord. You will tell the court everything that took place in your household on the evening in question. And I will warn you, do not attempt to hide the truth.
Oh, dearie me.
Is he here?
Chin up, Joni, nothing to worry about.
There he is, and he's facing forward.
Oh, I didn't know you were here, John.
Wasn't only you in that room that day, old thing, was it? Rather, think I ought to testify as well, don't you think?
But what about your knee, dear?
Well, don't you worry about that. I hardly notice it. I'm not the sort of chap to leave a comrade to face disciplinary action alone.
Oh, John!
Oh, this is the most heterosexual trial in Ace Attorney history.
I presume you are Mr. John Garadeb?
Yes, sir. Former second lieutenant of the 3rd Regime of the 4th Northumberland Fusiliers, sir. That was a tough one. Yes, on the day you're referring to, the wife and I did have a bit of a skirmish. Can't recall the reason now.
knocked a candlestick over and set fire to the carpet. Soon had it out, though, and got the window open.
Meanwhile, I was picking up whatever I could find to throw at him.
Please cast your mind back and try to remember. Was a knife among the items that you threw at your husband that day?
Let me see. Some bread, a cabbage, garlic, a towel, and a sponge, a napkin.
You have something to say about the napkin, my friend?
Excuse me.
Just the barrage of projectiles the old thing launched in my direction. Somewhat more solid than she implies. Books, bricks, and well, the fire poker I seem to recall.
Ouch.
And the woman's aim is uncanny.
Don't do that.
We're not at home now. This is a court of law.
Honestly, Joan, I would never have thrown such things at you. Obviously.
Well, take a look at this then. How do you suppose that happened,
The pipe, sir?
I had this thing in my hand as usual at the time of the onslaught. Knocked it clean out with one of her soft projectiles. She did, yes? And when we went to pick the thing up, it was broken in two. I like to see a sponge do that sort of damage. The defense believes Mr. Gairdub's remarks now to be of great significance. This war veteran's words only tell us one thing. Betray a fiery wife and pipes as well as hearts may be broken. Sentimental wisdom, perhaps, but hardly worthy of adding to the formal testimony.
Indeed. Common sense, one might say.
Might one?
In that case, would you at least permit us to examine the pipe, sir?
Oh, well, I don't see why not. Very well. The court will accept the gentleman's pipe as evidence.
Pipe has been added. Apparently fell to the floor during a domestic dispute with the wife and broke it. We're gonna find a shard of the thing in there. There's a chip. What did I say? Plenty of knives around our place. Can't say I'd notice if one or two went missing, I'm afraid. If that bally thing in the victim's back really was one of ours, well, you'll have a job proving it, I think. We're gonna throw this.
Objection.
What is that, a tiny scrap of metal? And where did the defense come by this evidence? It was lodged in the chamber of Mr. Gairdub's pipe.
My pipe, you say? By Jove, I wonder how that got in there.
When put together with another piece of evidence already in the court record, I believe this tiny fragment of metal will unravel the whole truth of the case, my lord. The tip of this particular knife's blade is the very fragment of metal we discovered in the chamber of Mr. Gairdub's pipe. Oh, he went for the heart. That's good. I don't believe it. Oh, he's so chuny. A knife from the crime scene. And this fragment of metal. A perfect match. During the argument between these two that occurred just as the victim was on the pavement below, Mrs. Gairdub flung this knife at her husband. This knife, which fell from the window on the Gairdub's house, is the very same knife that struck the victim in the middle of the back of the street below. The victim was found with the knife planted in the middle of her back. Oh, she was picking up the book. If the knife fell on the victim from above, there's no way it could have hit her in the middle of her back. Under normal circumstances, that is. The evidence that explains how the falling knife became lodged in the victim's back is she was picking up the book. Yep, there we go. The photographic print clearly shows the book in question, and the victim holding it in her hand. The young woman was walking along the street in the light fog, when all of a sudden, a book fell right in front of her.
Oh, the book I threw!
Yes, Miss Gairdub. What do you think the woman did? What would you do? You're walking along and suddenly a book landed in front of you on the pavement.
Oh, well, I really can't imagine it, but I suppose she might have, maybe reached down and picked up the book up.
Then, in the very next moment, while the woman was still bent over picking up the book, the next object fell from the room above, the jackknife, straight into the middle of her back. This was nothing more than a series of unlikely events that culminated in an unfortunate accident. And that is the real truth behind this case.
I take full responsibility. I let my anger get the better of me. I threw that book, and I threw the knife as well.
Yes, unbeknownst to themselves, they caused what could easily be a terrible tragedy. They shall have to prepare themselves for the consequence of their actions.
There is some good news, however, my lord. I've just had word from the hospital where the victim is being treated. Her condition is improving steadily, and the doctors believe she will regain consciousness soon. It's strange. We've been talking about the victim all this time, but we've never once met her.
So, Mr. Saseki Natsume?
Yes.
On behalf of my fellow countrymen, I would like to take this opportunity to beg your pardon, sir. You came from your distant eastern homeland to study our great British culture, but have been repaid with immeasurable unkindness. Please, accept our heartfelt apologies.
No, it is me who should be begging your pardon. I should never have dropped my books like that and run away. Why should have called for help? For a doctor, for the police? Instead, I've managed to create a rift in the relationship of trust between our two empires, and for that, I am truly sorry.
Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. In concluding this trial, I must ask one last time for a decision regarding the defendant's culpability.
Bop. I love the 3D audio on that. You probably won't get it much, but I will.
Very well, Mr. Saseki Natsume. I hereby pronounce you not guilty.
Again, that is so dangerous to do indoors.
It is my hope that you will continue to further your education in British culture, and may you never again be brought before me.
Today, you locum lawyer gave my gloom the boot. You stood firm behind that baronial, oh my god, that's a word, baronial bench before all those babbling British. You battled to the bitter end, laying bare the baffling truth, and when I beheld the blinding fireworks among the beams of the Bailey's roof, I bellowed, "Behold the best barrister ever born!" Well, that's very flattering. There you are. There you are, my dear fellows. I knew it. I apologize for keeping you all waiting. I rose late this morning. I see him here not a moment too soon. A disaster's been averted, I'm glad to say. Oh. The trial shall begin presently, Mr. Naruhodo, and I wish you the very best of luck. It's just finished, bro. What? No. That my haste was in vain. Oh, it's you. Hairlock Sholmes. You're the reason I had to go through this terrible ordeal. I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. You're the fellow who abandoned that poor young lady and ran off, are you not? Had she been taken to hospital more urgently, I feel perhaps she would have regained consciousness by now. But it was unavoidable, I'm sure. We are but human after all. Anyone would have been shaken by such an experience. Still, on the bright side, you've had an extremely entertaining experience without paying a penny. And, it would seem, you were not even found guilty. But there is no bright side. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Natsume? Even after this, I'm still cursed by the spirits and now by the Reaper! Lord Van Zeeks, I intend to return to my homeland soon. Oh. It has already been a year since I arrived here in Great Britain. I've visited universities, libraries, bookshops. I've been honored with the tutelage of professors. I've learned so much about the wealth of literature here in the city it has shaped. And I've come to realize that it is my calling to sail home and tell my fellow countrymen about it. That's very touching, Mr. Natsume. Or, in perhaps less veiled terms, you wish to withdraw halfway around the world to escape the terror of the Reaper's curse. That's not it at all! The more I learn of literature, the more this strange feeling claws at my insides. I feel compelled to return to my roots and attempt to pen a work of my own. And what about Mr. Sato and yourself, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? What about us? Yeah? What? Will you return to Japan alongside your mustached compatriot? Why would we? A week has not yet passed since we arrived in London. And only now does it feel like we finally have found our feet. And you are accommodated in a hotel at present, are you not?
That's right, but we need to find lodgings before it bankrupts us.
Would you consider taking lodgings with me?
Really?
Well, a vacancy has conveniently presented itself. Though it is up in the attic, I might add. Iris will prepare a welcome dinner this evening.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah, look at this little place. This ain't bad at all. The attic room, this ain't bad.
So, my dear fellows, do you like the place?
Oh, whoa! Whoa! That's what you look like?
So, Miss Naruhodo, how does it feel? Have your own office in the capital.
It's very exciting, actually.
I can't help wondering what adventures await us. Those were precisely my sentiments when I first established my office at these premises. London is a glorious place, full of wonder, opportunity, prosperity, and mirth. But the brightest of lights casts the darkest of shadows. Yeah, he's doing it! Well, I believe you're well aware of the murkiness that lies behind London's facade already. So, once again, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London.